Hey everyone, and welcome back to our tutorial. Where we last left off, we were bringing in our image of our cell phone, which is going to be the focal point of our design. And I started to show you guys how you can, use a smart object and the many benefits of smart objects compared to a raster image. So there's a couple other advantages to using smart objects, and I just wanted to continue that just to elaborate a little bit more and show you guys some of the other nice advantages of using it. So what we're going to do right now is just press Command or Control plus J on your keyboard, and that's going to make a duplicate of our cell phone layer. Alright, so now we have two copies, but only this copy that we just made is connected to our clipping masks and our adjustment layers. So you see that when I turn that off, both of the adjustment layers are also off. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just hold down Control, click, and make a raster layer. Okay, so once I do that, you'll see that I can rotate this image just like I can, warp it or do any number of transforming type of effects here. But you'll see that once it's been transformed, and I go to transform it again, it still appears to be in this perfect square, acting as if I had never rotated it at all. All right, so when you work with smart objects, though, and you rotate it, okay, and then you go to transform it again, you'll notice that the bounding box is wherever you last currently left it, whatever its previous state was. So that's kind of nice too when you're trying to line things up, because it's hard to, make the raster image straight after you've rotated it again. You kind of have to guess a little bit, or maybe just use some guides from your ruler. So that's kind of a small benefit of doing things with smart objects. And the last one is if you were to apply an effect, say, let's around 9.3 pixels. All right, so I'm going to apply that effect, and you'll see what happens. It gets blurry, as you might have guessed. But now, if you want to go back and adjust that, or remove the blur, the only way to really do that is to undo it. You'll see if I go back to the Gaussian blur, it's just going to blur it twice as much and not really allow me to go back. Okay, so you're kind of stuck with it once you blur it that much. However, if you're working with a smart object and you apply a filter, such as a blur, or any of these filters I believe will work, and you apply this, you'll notice that it added it underneath your layer. It's almost separate from the smart object itself. And what's nice about that is that you can double click it and you can adjust it. So double click on that. Smart filters. Okay, so now you'll see that you can lower it and return it to normal. Alright, so that's just another benefit of using a smart object versus a raster layer. Alright, I'm just going to clear that because I just wanted to show you guys as an example a few more benefits of using a smart object rather than a raster layer. Alright, so to get back into this though, we're going to continue to blend our cell phone image into the image here that we have built up already. So what I'm going to do next is hold down the Alt Option key and click on the adjustment layer icon at the bottom of the layers palette, which just looks like, this circular icon that's half black and half white. And what I want to do is click on solid color. All right, and we can leave this checked off, use previous layer to create clipping mask, that's fine. Okay, and I'm going to fill it with, maybe this orange color, maybe more of the highlight color, something a little more orange yellow, like that. Okay, it's already got, it's already here with our other adjustments. But what we can do is take a look at how some of these blending modes affect the cell phone now. So you'll see screen really kind of blows it out. But, there's some really oftentimes, unpredictable kind of outcomes that you might get. So, overlay, soft light, overlay looks pretty good. I also tend to use color a lot, which I think looks good as well. And now that we have the color and the hue saturation adjustment, it looks pretty good. But we don't want the color to be so extreme. So maybe we can, lower the opacity a little bit, or if we wanted to, we can use the layer mask that is attached to this adjustment layer and remove some of that color. So for now, let's go ahead and switch over to our brush tool, and using a solid black, just start to remove some of this color off of the screen. Okay, because we don't want the color to hit the cell phone, with the same intensity all over. I think it looks best kind of on the outer pieces, the case and the phone itself, not so much the screen and this inner part here. So you don't have to be exact, but just brush some of that color off so that you can start to see some of the normal colors for the icons and things like that. All right, but you guys get the idea. We're using these layer masks in combinations with our adjustment layers and clipping masks, and you can see how once you understand them and you begin to use them together, just how powerful they can really be. All right, and this is helpful when you're working, because again, it allows you to work in a non-destructive way so that you always are able to retain the integrity and quality of the original image. Okay? And if you'd like, you can also, add a layer mask to your actual cell phone smart object and just see what it looks like if you start to fade out the phone a little bit, which starts to make it look like the bubbles are overlapping. All right, so that's another option there. And I was just curious, what this would look like. You can always remove the mask or go back, which is nice. But it starts to create this kind of cool effect. So for now, I think I might actually leave this on the bottom here at least, and then we're going to start to add some more shapes to the other areas of the image so that we'll actually be covering the phone by putting stuff on top of it. But you start to get a nice kind of blending happening in here. So before we move on, I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and with my cell phone layer selected here, I'm just going to remove copy. Hold down the Shift key and then select your topmost layer. So you now have your cell phone selected along with these 3 adjustment layers that we've applied. So with all these layers selected at the same time, go ahead and press Command-Control+G on your keyboard and put them into a group folder. All right, we're just going to call this group folder cell phone for now, just to keep it simple. And we're going to go ahead and save our work right there. Okay. Next, go ahead and create a new layer and switch over to your pen tool. And we're going to begin to maybe add a few more shapes like we did in the beginning of this tutorial. So we're going to add some more, free-flowing, organic-looking shapes here. And, just play around with it, have some fun and just try to make something that looks, interesting. And, just experiment with it by using the handles and the anchors and all of that stuff to really get the most out of it. All right, so that looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and make a selection, hit OK, and then again, Alt plus Option plus the Delete key will fill that layer with your solid orange. All right, and what we're going to do now is again just look at some of the blending modes and see what that does to our cell phone image. And again, oftentimes you'll get these unexpected results. You don't really know how it's going to look until you try it, and that's part of the fun, and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And, I've heard people say before too that design is a lot about sometimes happy accidents or making mistakes and just knowing which ones to keep, which I actually believe that to be true. So all right, these blending modes, for now I think I'm going to leave it at normal, and I'm just going to go ahead and call it shape 8, add another new layer above it. All right, and I just made this layer a clipping mask, and I'm just going to do what we were doing earlier, and that is to use my brush tool set to overlay to just add some highlights with a solid white color selected. All right, so now that we've got some highlights in here, you can just brush it in and get some nice variation going. I'm going to put this shape with its highlights into a folder like we were doing earlier, again, just keeping up with our good practice here and keeping everything organized. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually add a layer mask to the Shape 8 layer. All right. So now just switching over to a soft black brush, I'm going to brush some of that color out to reveal the cell phone below. Okay, and you can go a little bit further with it and then pull it back, like we did, which is kind of nice. And just experiment more with what looks best to you, what looks good. All right, so I think I did go a little too far here. I don't want to see the cell phone completely. All right, something like that. Okay, and then you can move the entire folder around, see what looks good. Maybe do a quick free transform, and let's try to flip it this way, and just mix it up. Something like that looks kind of cool. So, yeah, we're gonna leave it somewhere around here, I think. All right, and you can see how these shapes start to blend in. It looks pretty good. All right, maybe you want to try and see what it looks like behind the phone, which is all right too. If we want to fill out a little more of the space back here, I'm just going to zoom out so you can really see this whole image here. But yeah, we're starting to get some nice things happening by layering up these shapes and just adding more and more complexity to our image. So I actually like the way it looks behind the phone, just kind of sticking out a little bit here. So continue this for a little bit, and don't be afraid to play around and experiment and see what happens. So I'm just going to save my work, and in our next lesson we will continue this, just pushing it further and seeing what we can do.